The first thing you notice isn't the fear, it is the heat. Late summer 2014, you have just arrived in Monrovia, Liberia. The humid air creates a wall against your skin, heavy with the scent of wet earth and distant wood smoke. But here, inside the medical perimeter, everything smells like high-concentration chlorine. You are a volunteer nurse with Doctors Without Borders, standing in the changing tent, beginning the rigorous 20-minute ritual that stands between you and a hemorrhagic fever that has already claimed thousands across Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. You pull the yellow Tivik suit over your scrubs. The plastic rustles loud and claustrophobic. You are here to help to stem the tide of a virus that spreads through bodily fluids. That is the rule. That is the science. But as you pull the zipper towards your neck, your radio crackles. A panicked voice cuts through the static, reporting a new case in Triage 3. They are not talking about bleeding. They are talking about coughing. A dry, hacking cough projecting blood into the stagnant air. You freeze. The World Health Organization guidelines are clear, direct contact only, but the voice on the radio sounds terrified, mentioning respiratory droplets. Just as you seal your second pair of gloves, the nurse beside you, a veteran named Sarah, stumbles. She slides against the canvas wall, eyes wide above her mask. She grabs your wrist, defying every safety protocol, and whispers the words that turn a tragedy into a nightmare. She says, "It is in the air, and they are hiding it." The alarm that follows Sarah's collapse does not sound like an emergency. It sounds like an admission of defeat. It is a harsh, rhythmic blare that cuts through the humidity of the morning, sending birds scattering from the trees surrounding the compound. Two orderlies in full white protective gear rush past you, lifting Sarah onto a stretcher. They do not look at you. They do not speak. They treat her body not as a fallen colleague, but as a biological hazard, a breached container that must be sealed. You stand there, your own yellow suit suddenly feeling like a sarcophagus. Her words are still ringing in your ears, bouncing around the inside of your plastic hood. It is in the air. The rational part of your brain, the part trained in nursing school and briefed by the World Health Organization, tries to reject it. Ebola is a fluid, born hemorrhage fever. It requires contact. It is heavy, wet, and intimate. It does not float. But as you turn back toward the ward, forcing your feet to move through the mud, you notice the sound. Usually, the Ebola treatment unit is a place of low, pained groans or the silence of exhaustion. Today, there is coughing. It is wet and thick, echoing from the separation tents where the patients are waiting for test results. It sounds like a tuberculosis ward, not a fever zone. You have a job to do. That is the tether keeping you sane. You grab your clipboard, the paper damp with the ambient moisture, and begin your rounds in the confirmed ward. The protocols here are strict, shaped by local customs and international fear. Men on the left, women on the right, separated to maintain dignity in a place that strips it away. The infrastructure of Monrovia, scarred by years of civil war, means the power grid is unstable, so the generator outside hums and sputters, causing the lights to flicker. Every time the bulb dims, the shadows in the corners of the tent seem to stretch toward you. For a moment, the rhythm of the work offers a strange, narcotic comfort. You approach a young man in bed 4. He is dehydrated, eyes sunken, skin hot to the touch through your double layers of gloves. You find a vein on the first try, a small victory in a world of losses. You hang the rehydration fluids, watching the clear liquid drip into the line. Within an hour, his breathing eases. He looks at you, eyes clearing, and gives a weak nod. It is a flash of hope. The system works. You are competent. You are safe behind your layers of plastic and rubber. But that feeling is a trap. It curdles 20 minutes later at the nurse's station. You are logging the vitals when a lab technician drops a stack of papers on the desk. He looks frantic, his eyes darting around the compound as if he is being watched. He leaves without a word. You glance at the top sheet. It is a polymerase chain reaction test result for the patient in bed 4, the one you just treated, the one breathing easier. The result is stamped, inconclusive. That should not happen. You know the viral load markers. You know the benchmarks. Beneath the stamp, there is a handwritten note in the margins, scrawled in blue ink. Respiratory viral load exceeds blood concentration. Sample error, you flip the page. Another inconclusive result, and a cold sweat breaks out across your back, sliding exclusively down your spine. The suit catches the moisture, turning your personal environment into a swamp. You look up, through the fogging plastic of your visor, and you see David, another volunteer nurse, standing by the entrance of the high-risk zone. David is meticulous. He is the one who taught you how to disrobe without touching the outside of the suit. But right now, David is not moving. He is staring at the wall, his chest heaving, and then he coughs. It is not a throat-clearing cough. It is a violent, retching spasm that shakes his entire frame. He doubles over, hands bracing against his knees. Inside his hood, a fine mist sprays against the clear plastic visor. He straightens up, looking directly at you. You see the terror in his eyes, the realization. He hasn't touched a patient without gloves. He hasn't been splashed. He has only been breathing the same recycled air in the break room that you were breathing an hour ago. The dread that washes over you is heavy. Physical, it feels like the air pressure in the tent has dropped. If Sarah was right, if this virus has mutated in the chaotic, underfunded labs or through some biological accident in the wild, then your suit is the wrong kind of armor. These yellow suits are designed to stop fluids, not aerosols. If it is airborne, the seams are not tight enough. The masks are not filtered enough. You are walking through a burning building, wearing a raincoat. You need to know the truth. The paranoia itches under your skin. You wait until the shifts change. The chaotic moment when the exhausted morning crew swaps with the fresh afternoon team. Instead of heading to the decontamination shower, you slip toward the administrative tent. This is where the Ministry of Health and the international coordinators keep the records. The tent is empty, the portable air conditioner rattling in the corner. You should not be here. If you are caught, you will be on a plane home in hours, or worse, thrown into quarantine yourself. But the image of David, S-fogged visor, pushes you forward. You find the logbook on the main desk. It is a heavy binder, tracking the daily intake and incident reports. You flip back to October, 2 weeks ago. The pages are crisp. You scan the entries until your finger stops on a report from the research annex. The 14th of October centrifuge failure. Aerosolization event. 3. Staff exposed. The entry is crossed out with a single thick black line, but you can still read it. Underneath, a new entry has been taped over. Equipment malfunction. No exposure. But it gets worse. Tucked into the back pocket of the binder is a printed email from a regional coordinator. The subject line reads, "Containment strategy." You pull it out. The text is brief, brutal. Viral mutation confirmed in Sector 4. Transmission vector involves respiratory droplets in confined spaces. Do not incite panic. Maintain standard fluid protocols until evacuation logistics are finalized. They know. The people giving the orders, the people telling you to wash your hands and check for bleeding. They know it, it's in the breath. They're keeping the volunteers here as a buffer, a human shield to slow the spread while they figure out how to run. Imagine holding that piece of paper. The sheer weight of the betrayal. You are standing in the center of the kill zone, and the people who sent you here have locked the doors from the outside. What would you do? Do you run out into the compound, screaming that the protocols are a lie, risking a riot that would tear the fences down and release the infection into the city? Or do you swallow the terror, zip your lips as tightly as your suit, and try to survive the shift, playing along with a game you know is rigged? You go to slide the paper back into the binder, your gloved hands shaking. You need to take a picture, you need proof, but phones are banned in the hot zone. You have to memorize it. Sector 4, respiratory droplets. You close the binder. The sound of the heavy cover hitting the desk seems deafening in the quiet tent. You turn to leave, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. But you are not alone. In the dim light of the tent entrance, a shadow stretches across the floorboards. It blocks the exit. The silhouette is tall, wearing the dark blue scrubs of the senior administrative staff. You did not hear them enter over the rattle of the air conditioner. You freeze. A voice comes from the shadow. It is low, calm, and terrifyingly weary. You should not have seen that. The voice hisses, stepping forward just enough for the light to catch the reflection of their glasses. Now, you are part of it. The shadow in the tent entrance resolves into Dr. Kaba, the site administrator. He does not yell. He does not call security to drag you out for snooping through restricted files. Instead, he steps fully into the room, the plastic of his protective suit crinkling with a sound like dry leaves, and closes the distance between you. He looks tired, bone-deep tired. The kind of exhaustion that hollows a person out from the inside. "You have seen the data," he says, his voice muffled by the mask but clear enough to freeze your blood. "So now you have a choice. You can scream about airborne markers and respiratory vectors. You can tell the volunteers that their yellow suits are useless against a cough in a crowded room. And do you know what happens then? He leans in, eyes locked on yours through the fogged visor. They leave. Mendicen Sans Frontières pulls out. The Red Cross evacuates. And this entire city, every man, woman, and child in Monrovia burns with fever alone. Is that what you want? He leaves the question hanging in the humid air, heavy as a stone. He does not wait for your answer. He just hands you a box of N95 masks, the good ones, the ones they were rationing, and walks away. You are not a whistleblower anymore. You are an accomplice. The next morning, the world looks the same, but the rules of physics seem to have bent. You are back on logistics duty, distributing oral rehydration salts at the edge of the isolation zone. In the real timeline, this was a battle of hygiene. Wash basins with chlorine water. No handshakes, no touching the dead. But now, as you watch a group of men arguing with soldiers at the checkpoint, you see the invisible enemy floating between them. The divergence is happening in the slums. In West Point, the dense township jutting out into the ocean, the infection rate is not climbing linearly. It is going vertical. The official radio broadcast crackling from a nearby taxi claims the situation is stabilizing, urging citizens to remain calm and trust the government. It is a lie so bold it feels like physical violence. You know the truth because you see the trucks coming back empty of supplies but full of body bags. Midday brings a moment of sharp, selfish relief. The weekly polymerase chain reaction screenings are mandatory for staff now. You sit on a plastic crate, arm extended, watching your own blood fill the vial. An hour later, the result comes back, negative. For 10 seconds, you are invincible. You can breathe. The tightness in your chest loosens. You are not dying. You are one of the lucky ones, the competent ones. You wash your hands in the chlorine solution until they are raw and red, telling yourself that your survival is proof that the system works, that Dr. Kaba is right to keep the secret. If you stay calm, if you follow the routine, you survive. But the relief curdles quickly. It happens during the evening rounds in the palliative tent. You are checking on a young mother whose husband died yesterday. She is lucid, staring up at the canvas ceiling. She grabs your wrist, a breach of protocol, but you do not pull away. It was not the touch, she whispers. Her voice is raspy, lungs filling with fluid. My sister, she never touched him. She just sat in the room to pray. She said she felt the sickness in the wind. Can you feel it in the wind, doctor? You pull your hand back, heart hammering. You walk out of the tent, needing air, but the air outside is thick with smoke from the incinerators. That is when you see Elias. Elias is one of the best contact tracers on the team. He knows the streets, knows how to talk to grieving families without getting chased off with stones. He is standing by the water tank, splashing his face. He thinks he is alone. You watch from the shadow of the supply awning as he wipes his mouth. There is blood on the back of his hand, just a smear. He stares at it. Then he looks around, terrified. He sees you. For a heartbeat, neither of you moves. You know the protocol. You are supposed to report him immediately. He should be in isolation. He is a biological weapon walking among the healthy staff. But you also know that if he goes into that tent, he probably won't come out. What would you do? Do you raise the alarm, condemning a friend to die alone in a plastic box to save the group? Or do you look away, letting him hide his symptoms for one more day, risking everyone in the compound? Elias pleads with his eyes, a silent, desperate beg, then quickly scrubs the blood away with chlorine and pulls his mask back up. You stay silent. The guilt settles in your stomach, heavier than lead. You retreat to the administrative block to update the patient logs. The sun has set and the compound is running on the backup generators. The hum is hypnotic, a constant drone that masks the sounds of coughing from the wards. You are cross-referencing the intake forms, looking for patterns. You notice something strange in the data clusters of infection, starting not in homes, but in public transport hubs and waiting rooms. Places where people do not touch, but where they breathe the same stagnant air. You are connecting the dots, realizing that the ground zero for this mutation was not a village, but likely the overcrowded waiting room of a local clinic where the first cases were misdiagnosed. Suddenly, the hum of the generator cuts out. The silence is instantaneous and absolute. The fluorescent lights overhead die, plunging the room into a darkness so thick it feels like velvet pressed against your eyes. You freeze. In Monrovia, power outages are common, but in the red zone, darkness is an emergency. The ventilation fans spin down. The air grows still. You fumble for your flashlight, your fingers brushing the cool metal of the desk. Then you feel it. Warmth. not the ambient heat of the tropical night. A localized rhythmic warmth on the back of your neck, moist and steady. Someone is standing directly behind you, in the dark, inside the secure zone. You did not hear the door open, you did not hear footsteps, but you can feel the air moving as they exhale, the breath washing over your exposed skin just above your collar. They are close enough to whisper, close enough to infect. You're asking the wrong questions, a voice says, right at your ear. It is not Dr. Kaba. It is not Elias. It is a voice you do not recognize, and it sounds entirely too calm for the dark. The generator kicks back in with a violent shudder, drowning out the whisper at your neck. The fluorescent lights overhead strobe wildly before settling into a sickly yellow hum, but the person behind you is gone, vanished into the labyrinth of plastic sheeting. You do not have time to process the intrusion because a second later, the sirens start. It isn't the rhythmic beep of a heart monitor flatlining. It is the jagged, undulating wail of a perimeter breach. You burst out of the administrative tent and into the deluge. The rain in Monrovia during the wet season falls like hammers, turning the red dust of the compound into a slurry that sucks at your boots. You are running toward the isolation ward, your breath hot and recycled inside your mask. Through the rain-slicked visor, you see the disaster unfolding. A section of the orange fencing has been trampled flat. A patient has escaped. In the real history of 2014, patients sometimes fled out of delirium or fear, terrified of the people in spacesuits. But in this timeline, the stakes are catastrophic. This patient was in the high-risk confirmation ward, coughing that dry rattle-chest cough that signals the mutation. If they make it to the red light market, or board a bush taxi to the interior, the mathematical models you saw earlier won't just be predictions. They will be a eulogy for the entire region. You splash through a puddle, nearly colliding with a Red Cross burial team loading a truck. They are shouting over the rain, arguing about logistics. The protocol demands safe, medical burials, no washing the bodies, no touching the beloved dead, but you see the exhaustion in their posture. They know what you are starting to suspect. The virus is moving faster than the trucks. You reach the breach point. The gate is torn. Security is shouting into radios that are not working properly in the storm. You spot a discarded hospital gown snagged on the wire, flapping violently in the wind. And there it is, the terrible irony of your containment efforts. The massive industrial fans, brought in to keep the doctors from passing out in the heat, are churning away, blasting the air from inside the ward directly out into the city streets. We built a chimney for the plague. Secure the perimeter. You scream, your voice cracking. For 20 minutes, you work in a fever state. You rally 2 junior nurses who are paralyzed with panic. Together, you zip-tie the fencing back up and corral a group of patients who were inching toward the gap, drawn by the chaos. You get them back into their cots, speaking soothing lies through layers of latex. For a moment, just a moment, you feel a surge of competence. You did it. You held the line. The panic subsides into a dull ache in your shoulders. Then the dopamine crash hits you like a physical blow. You retreat to the staff lockers to change your drenched gloves. Your phone, sealed in a Ziploc bag, lights up. It is a message from your cousin in Lofa County, up near the border. They closed the road. Soldiers everywhere. Mama has the fever. They say it is just malaria, but she is bleeding from the gums. Help us. You stare at the screen. Lofa was supposed to be clear. The official reports, the ones you filed yourself, said the contact tracing was holding. A cold realization grips you. You open your locker and dig out the physical logbooks you swiped during the confusion of the breach. You flip through the carbon copies of the death certificates from the last 48 hours. Patient 402, cardiac arrest. Patient 415, asthma complications. Patient 420, undiagnosed bacterial pneumonia. Lies, all of them. You treated patient 420. He was bleeding from the eyes. They are reclassifying Ebola deaths to keep the numbers down, to keep the international flights landing, to keep the economy from flatlining. The divergence is not just the virus changing. It is the bureaucracy deciding that truth is too expensive. You slam the book shut as the tent flap opens. It is the site coordinator, a man sent from the capital to streamline operations. He looks at the logbook in your hands, then at your face. He does not look surprised. You are spreading rumors, he says, his voice flat. I have reports that you are telling staff the viral load is airborne, that you are inciting panic. I am reading the data. You snap, holding up the book. These certificates are falsified. If we do not tell the contact tracers the truth, they are walking into death traps. Give me the book. No, this is not a debate. If you cause a panic, the World Health Organization pulls out. The money stops. The generators stop. And then everyone here dies. Give me the book and go back to your quarters. He holds out a gloved hand. The air between you is thick with the smell of bleach and betrayal. What would you do? Hand over the proof of a cover-up to keep your job, telling yourself it is for the greater good of keeping the lights on? Or do you shove the evidence into your scrub pocket, risking arrest, risking your career, risking being thrown into the isolation ward yourself as a suspected case? You make your choice. You shove the logbook into your waistband beneath your scrubs and step back. I need to use the latrine. You lie, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You push past him, expecting him to grab you, but he just watches, his expression unreadable behind the fogged goggles. You step back out into the rain, the heavy book digging into your hip. You need to get to the satellite uplink tent. You need to scan these pages and send them to the journalists in Dakar. You keep your head down, moving through the shadows of the water tanks. The rain masks the sound of your boots. The compound feels different now. Not like a hospital, but like a prison. Every shadow looks like a security guard. Every flicker of lightning looks like a camera flash. You round the corner to the uplink tent, reaching for the zipper. A figure steps out from the darkness, blocking your path. They are wearing a full biohazard suit, pristine and white, not the yellow ones used by the medical staff. It glows faintly in the gloom. The faceplate is mirrored, reflecting your own terrified posture back at you. They do not move to let you pass. They do not speak at first. They just stand there, an immovable object in the mud. Then, a voice comes from inside the suit, distorted and low. You have gone too far, the figure murmurs. The containment was never for the virus. It was for people like you. Now the real hunt begins. You do not fight the figure in the white suit. You do not have a weapon, and frankly, you do not have the strength. Instead, you exploit the one thing the infrastructure of 2014 Monrovia never promised: stability. Just as the figure lunges, a heavy robotic movement encumbered by layers of protective gear, the main generator outside gives a dying gasp and cuts out. Total darkness swallows the compound. For 3 seconds, the only light is the afterimage burned into your retinas. You dive to the left, scrambling over rain, slicked pallets, your boots sliding in the mud. You hear the figure collide with a water tank, a hollow metallic boom that vibrates through the ground. You do not look back. You sprint toward the supply annex, your breath tearing at your throat, guiding yourself by the terrifying muscle memory of the facility's layout. You slam the heavy steel door of the storage room behind you and slide the deadbolt home just as the auxiliary power flickers on, bathing you in a dim red emergency glow. You are safe. For now. You slide down the wall, clutching the stolen logbook against your chest. The room smells of aggressive bleach and decomposing cardboard. This is where the supplies from Doctors Without Borders and the World Health Organization come to die: stacks of yellow gowns, boxes of latex gloves, and body bags, rationing dwindling by the hour. In our timeline, logistics were a nightmare of delayed flights and bureaucracy. In this timeline, the scarcity feels malicious. You look at the shelves and realize there is not enough saline to treat 50 people, let alone the thousands the models predict. But the silence here is not empty. It is heavy. And then you hear it. It starts as a low vibration in the aluminum ductwork above your head, a rhythmic, wet rattle. Then another. Then a chorus. It sounds like the building itself is sick. You realize with a jolt of nausea that the ventilation system connects this storage room to the main isolation ward. And the fans are still pushing air. Cough, rattle, wheeze. It is traveling through the vents. You scramble away from the intake grate, pressing yourself into the corner behind a stack of fluid crates. The realization hits you with the force of a physical blow. The airborne mutation is not just a theory you are investigating. It is haunting the architecture. Every breath you take in this room feels like playing Russian roulette with a loaded revolver. You pull out your handheld air quality monitor, a piece of kit you are not supposed to have. You hold it up, watching the digital readout. The particulate count is stable. Green light. A wave of relief washes over you, so intense it makes your knees weak. The filters are holding. The air in here is still clean. You allow yourself a single, ragged exhale of hope. Maybe you can wait this out. Maybe the cavalry is coming. Then, your radio crackles. It is Samuel, the head nurse. The man who taught you how to doff your gear without touching the outer layer. The man who has been the bedrock of this entire operation. I need more leaders. Samuel's voice is distorted. Weak. Storage. Do you copy? I am burning up. Samuel. You whisper, thumbing the transmit button. Where are you? Triage tent, he wheezes. And then he coughs that same distinctive, fluid, heavy sound you just heard in the vents. I was wearing the double layer. I did everything right. Why can't I breathe? The radio falls silent. The green light on your air monitor suddenly feels like a mockery. Samuel did not make a mistake. The virus simply changed the rules of the game. If Samuel is compromised, the entire staff is walking dead. The relief you felt 10 seconds ago curdles into a profound, hollow dread. You are not witnessing a medical crisis anymore. You are witnessing a massacre in slow motion. You look down at the logbook in your lap, the reason you are hiding in this red-lit tomb. You flip past the falsified death certificates to the back pages, the ones filled with shipping codes. Your eyes scan the manifest. Vector 4, Aerosol Efficiency Study. Destination, Kenema Field Lab. This wasn't nature. The realization chills you faster than the damp air. The codes match a research grant suspended years ago for ethical violations. Someone did not just let this happen. They were testing the spread rates. They were using the chaos of the outbreak as a live fire exercise. You reach for a bottle of water from a crate, your hand trembling. You unscrew the cap and take a sip, but the water tastes metallic. Wrong. You swallow hard, and it feels like there is broken glass in your throat. Stop. You touch your forehead. Through the latex glove, you can feel the heat radiating from your skin. Your joints, which you thought were just aching from the run and the adrenaline, are throbbing with a deep, rhythmic pain. It is the humidity. You tell yourself, it is the stress. It is the 3 layers of plastic you are wearing in a tropical storm. But you know the symptoms. You have memorized the chart. Sudden onset fever, joint pain, metallic taste. What would you do? In this terrified silence, with the red light humming, what is your move? Do you radio for help? Surrendering yourself to the isolation ward, knowing you will likely die there alone? Or do you stay quiet, hide the symptoms, and try to finish what you started, potentially infecting anyone you come into contact with? The moral clarity of the history books dissolves when the fever is your own. You try to stand, but the room spins violently. You stumble, knocking over a stack of kidney dishes. The clang echoes like a gunshot. Immediately, the doorknob rattles. It is not a polite knock. It is a demand. The handle jerks up and down violently against the deadbolt. You freeze, the metallic taste in your mouth turning to bile. Open up. A voice shouts from the other side. It is not the robotic voice of the figure in the white suit. It is the site's security chief, panic edging his tone. We heard you in there. Open up, or we will assume you are one of them. You back away, your vision swimming. The heat in your body rising to meet the panic in your chest. They aren't coming to rescue you. They're coming to contain the breach. And right now, you are the breach. The door jam splinters right next to your ear. You flinch, backing away until your spine hits the metal shelving, knocking a box of saline loose. It hits the floor with a wet slap, but you can barely hear it over the roar of blood in your ears. The fever is not just heat anymore. It's a pressure cooker behind your eyes, distorting the room into a funhouse mirror of red emergency lights and shadows that seem to breathe. Open the door. The voice outside is not angry anymore. It's desperate. Your hand shakes so badly you fumble the deadbolt twice before sliding it back. The door swings open, revealing not a squad of soldiers with rifles raised, but a single man in a yellow Tivik suit. His name written in black marker on the chest, Dr. Aris. You know him. He's one of the few local specialists who did not flee when the World Health Organization pulled their non-essential staff last week. He kicks the door shut behind him and locks it, his breathing ragged inside his hood. Let me see, he demands, grabbing your wrist. His grip is tight, clinical, and completely lacking in comfort. You look down at your arm. In the real 2014, Ebola was a hemorrhagic fever, terrifying. Yes, but it moved through fluids, through touch, through the tragic intimacy of caretaking. But what you see on your arm is different. Under the sweat-slicked skin, your veins have darkened. They are not blue. They are a deep, bruised charcoal, branching out from your wrist like a map of a river system, poisoned by oil. It's fast, Aris mutters, and there's a note in his voice that chills you more than the fever. It's not pity, it's fascination. The aerosol strain binds to oxygen receptors. It suffocates the blood before it even causes the bleed out. He reaches into a cooler bag slung over his shoulder. In our history books, the experimental drugs map was the holy grail. A rare serum flown in on private jets for a lucky few Westerners while locals waited and prayed. Here, scarcity has bred a dark market. Haris pulls out a vial without a label, the liquid inside a cloudy amber. "This is not sanctioned by Doctors Without Borders," he says, tapping the syringe. "It's a prototype, a viral interceptor. It might kill you, or it might scrub the receptor sites clean." He looks at you, the needle catching the red emergency light. "Your choice. The isolation ward is a death sentence right now. They have stopped feeding the patients in Zone C, or you take the risk." What would you do? Your body is burning, your mind is fraying at the edges, and the logic of survival is screaming at you to take the gamble. Do you trust the man with the needle? Or do you trust the institution that has already abandoned you? In the end, pain makes the choice for you. You nod. The needle slides in. The effect is almost instant, but not in the way you expect. It feels like someone poured liquid nitrogen into your veins. The burning heat in your skull snaps into a freezing clarity. You gasp, your knees buckling, and Aris catches you, guiding you down to sit against the cool metal of the supply lockers. "Breathe," he commands. "Let it circulate." For a moment, you feel a profound, intoxicating relief. The blurred edges of your vision sharpen. The throbbing in your joints recedes. You think, "I made it. I survived the coin toss." Then the radio on Aris's belt crackles to life. It's the public broadcast frequency, the one usually reserved for calm government announcements about hand-washing and burial protocols. Now, it's chaotic. Militias have blocked the road to Bo, a static-filled voice screams. They are burning the treatment centers. They say the doctors are bringing the sickness. The Kenema grid is gone. Repeat, Kenema is dark. You look up at Aris, expecting shared horror. Kenema is the second largest city in Sierra Leone. If the grid is down and the militias are active, the containment line has shattered. This is the divergence point where a regional tragedy metastasizes into a continental collapse. But Aris is not listening to the radio. He is watching you specifically. He is watching the stopwatch on his wrist. Heart rate dropping, he whispers, pulling a voice recorder from his pocket. Subject showing immediate cognitive recovery. Vector 4 adaptation seems compatible with the interceptor. The cold inside you suddenly feels less like a cure and more like a cage. You realize he did not give you the shot to save you. He gave it to you to see what would happen. "You knew," you croak, your voice raspy but steady. The logbook. Vector 4. You knew this strain was engineered. Aris pauses, his eyes narrowing behind his goggles. He does not deny it. He reaches for your arm again, this time with a vacutainer to draw blood. Engineering is a strong word. We call it accelerated evolution. We needed a live host who had been exposed to the ventilation dispersal, but survived the initial viral load. You breathing that air in the storage room? That wasn't an accident, my friend. That was a field test. The betrayal hits harder than the fever. You are not a patient. You are a petri dish. The riots burning down cities outside, the thousands dying in the mud, it's all background noise to men like Aris, who see the apocalypse as a dataset. You try to pull your arm back, but your muscles are sluggish, heavy with the artificial chill of the drug. You are paralyzed, chemically pinned to the floor. "Do not struggle," Aris says soothingly, the needle piercing your skin again to steal the blood that now holds the secret to the mutation. The paralysis is temporary, a necessary side effect to keep the heart rate stable. He fills one vial. Then two. The dark red liquid swirls inside the glass. "Why?" You manage to whisper. "Because the old world is dying," he says, capping the second vial. "And whoever holds the cure for the new world gets to decide who lives in it." He stands up, packing the vials carefully into his cooler. The red light of the room flickers, casting long dancing shadows that look like reaching hands. Your vision begins to blur again, not from fever this time, but from the sedative creeping up your neck. Aris moves to the door, his silhouette looming over you. He looks back, his hand on the knob, and for a second, he almost looks sorry. Almost, "Rest now," he whispers. "I need you alive for the second phase. This changes everything, you're the key now." He opens the door and slips out into the chaos, taking your blood and your hope with him, leaving you paralyzed in the dark as the sound of distant screaming draws closer. The paralysis recedes like a tide going out, leaving your muscles screaming. That chemical cold Dr. Aris pumped into your veins is gone, burned away by a fever that feels less like sickness now and more like pure, distillation-grade survival instinct. You claw your way up from the supply room floor. Outside, the world is ending, or at least, the containment grid is. You hear the rhythmic chanting of the mob breaching the perimeter fence, the sound of glass shattering, and the frantic shouting of the Cuban medical brigade trying to hold the line. But you are not running away from the danger. You are running toward it. You slip out the side door, ducking under the orange plastic netting that separates the confirmed patients from the suspected cases. The mud sucks at your boots. It is chaos out here. A generator coughs black smoke into the humid air, struggling to keep the floodlights on. In the confusion, nobody notices you. A figure in a stained yellow suit moving against the flow of fleeing staff. You are tracking Aris. You saw him head toward the administrative block, a prefab structure that supposedly houses the logistics for the World Health Organization. But Aris did not go into the office. He went around the back toward a section of the camp that does not exist on the maps you memorized. You find the slit in the heavy canvas tarp, hidden behind a stack of empty chlorine barrels. The air pressure changes as you push through negative pressure. A hum greets you, the low, steady vibration of battery-powered centrifuges spinning in the dark. You are inside. The room is makeshift, a scavenger's palace of stolen equipment. Heavy black plastic covers the windows, blocking out the flashes of the riot outside. The only light comes from the ultraviolet lamps mounted under the cabinets, bathing the workspace in a sickly glowing violet. It smells of ozone and formaldehyde, burying the omnipresent scent of bleach. This is where the divergence happened. This is the womb of the nightmare. You move to the workbench. Your hands are shaking, but you force them to steady as you pick up a clipboard. It's a contact tracing log standard for 2014, listing names, villages, dates of symptom onset. But there are annotations in red ink. Next to a patient from a village near the border, someone has written, aerosol efficiency, 12%, subject deceased, vector confirmed. You flip the page. Another name, aerosol efficiency 40%. The horror is not supernatural, it is bureaucratic. You realize you are looking at a progress report. This wasn't a random mutation that spiraled out of control because of bad roads or slow international aid. This was a forced evolution. Someone was tweaking the strain, using the chaos of the outbreak as a smokescreen to field test a bioweapon, trusting that the world would just blame the bats or the bushmeat. And then you see the vials. They are racked inside a portable cooling unit humming on its own battery loop. They are not labeled with chemical formulas. They are labeled with transit hubs. Conakry International, Heathrow Terminal 5, JFK arrivals. Your stomach drops. They are not just studying it, they are preparing to export it. You fumble for the smartphone you smuggled in, a cracked Android with a battery held in by tape. You snap photos of the logbook, the vials, the map on the wall with the flight paths drawn in red marker. Click, click, click. For a second, you feel a surge of triumph. You have the smoking gun. If you can get this signal out, if you can upload these images to a server in Europe or America, the narrative changes. The quarantine embargoes will shift from containment to criminal investigation. You feel powerful, competent. You are going to stop this. Impressive, isn't it? The voice comes from the shadows in the corner. You spin around, nearly dropping the phone. Dr. Aris is sitting on a stool, peeling off his gloves with slow, methodical precision. He does not look like a monster. He looks like a tired academic. He looks like a man who believes he is right. You think this is cruelty, Aris says, gesturing to the glowing vials. But look at the history of this region, ignored, exploited. Left to die of malaria and cholera while the West worries about their stock markets. We needed leverage. We needed something they couldn't ignore, something that would force them to invest in our biology. You killed them, you whisper. The accusation feels weak against the sheer scale of his delusion. You murdered families to make a point. We accelerated the timeline, he corrects you, standing up. Evolution usually takes centuries. We did it in months, and you are the proof that humanity can survive it. You're the bridge. This is the abyss. You are staring into the face of a man who has rationalized mass murder as a public works project. It is the ultimate psychological terror, the realization that intelligence without empathy is the most dangerous force on the planet. I am sending this, you say, thumb hovering over the send button. I am putting it all online. The vials, the logs, you, Aris sighs, looking genuinely disappointed. I was hoping you would understand the necessity. The The radio waves are jammed locally, by the way. The military locked down the spectrum an hour ago when the riot started. He taps a button on the console next to him. Suddenly, the heavy magnetic locks on the room's only exit slam home with a sound like a gunshot. Clang! The hum of the ventilation system dies, leaving the room in a stifling, silent stillness. The red emergency light above the door begins to pulse. You are trapped. The relief of finding the evidence evaporates, replaced by the crushing weight of claustrophobia. The air in the room feels thick, recycled, dangerous. You glance at the signal bars on your phone. Searching, no signal, Aris says softly. No exit, just us and the work. He picks up a fresh syringe from the tray. It's filled with a dark, viscous fluid, not the amber serum from before. This is something else, something wrong. What would you do? He asks, echoing the question that has haunted you since you zipped up the suit. Would you die a victim or live as a pioneer? You back up until your thighs hit the workbench. You grab a glass beaker, smashing it against the metal edge to create a jagged shiv. It's a pathetic weapon against a man who controls the air you breathe, but it's all you have. Stay back, you warn, your voice trembling. It is too late for that, Aris says. He is not walking, he is gliding toward you, the syringe raised like a conductor's baton. The riot is going to burn this camp to the ground in 20 minutes. We need to conclude the experiment before they get here. Join the evolution, or perish with the control group. He lunges. You do not think, you react. As Dr. Aris lunges, you drop your shoulder and twist, a move learned not in a combat class, but from dodging aggressive touts in the crowded markets of Conakry. His momentum carries him past you. He crashes into the metal workbench, and the syringe flies from his hand. It hits the concrete floor with a sound that is impossibly loud in the small room. Crunch. The viscous black fluid splatters across your boots. For a second, there is only the sound of Aris wheezing, clutching his bruised ribs, and the hum of the cooling unit preserving those terrifying vials. You grab a heavy microscope, ready to finish this, ready to smash the source of this nightmare. But then the magnetic locks on the door disengage. Clack, thud. Relief floods your chest, a warm, dizzying wave. The cavalry, the World Health Organization inspection team, must have broken through the riot. You drop the microscope, raising your hands in surrender, ready to be debriefed, sanitized, and flown home. The door swings open, but the people who step inside are not wearing the baby blue vests of the United Nations. They are wearing matte black tactical armor, faces obscured by gas masks that look more like insect mandibles than medical equipment. There are no insignias on their shoulders, no flags, just the sleek, anonymous efficiency of a cleanup crew that doesn't exist on paper. Aris scrambles up, straightening his lab coat, a look of smug vindication washing over his face. Thank God, he pants. Secure the samples. The subject is hostile. The lead operative ignores him. He walks past Aris, past the glowing vials, and stops in front of you. He holds a tablet up, scanning your face through the scratched visor of your hazmat suit. Identity confirmed, the operative says. His voice is distorted, metallic, journalist, Western national. He confessed, you blurt out, pointing a trembling finger at Aris. He modified the strain. It's airborne, look at the logs. The operative lowers the tablet. He looks at Aris, then back at you. We know. The dread hits you harder than the fever, they know. They aren't here to stop it. They are here to manage the asset. Two other operatives begin packing the vials into hardened steel cases. They move with a practiced rhythm pack. Seal, tag. They aren't treating this like a crime scene. They are treating it like a foreclosure. The lead operative steps closer, invading your personal space. The global economy is a fragile thing, he says, his tone conversational, almost bored. If the world finds out this strain is airborne, the markets collapse by morning, borders close permanently, shipping lanes halt, starvation kills more people than the fever ever could. We are here to ensure stability. He offers you a choice, and this is where the horror shifts from biological to moral. We have the extraction chopper 5 mics out. He says, we can take you to a private facility in Switzerland. Best care in the world. You live. You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You disappear for a few years until the news cycle moves on. He pauses, tilting his head. Or you stay here with the locals, with the fire. What would you do? Your throat feels like it's filled with broken glass. Your joints are aching with a renewed intensity. The adrenaline that fueled your fight with Aris is fading, revealing the sickness waiting underneath. Switzerland sounds like heaven. Clean sheets, cool air, life. But then you look at the map on the wall, the red line stretching to London, to Tokyo. And them, you ask, gesturing to the door, to the thousands of sick people in the camp outside. What happens to the containment zone? Sterilization, the operative says. He doesn't elaborate. He doesn't have to. You look at the operative's belt. He has a radio, and next to the radio a data port key. I'll go, you lie. Your voice cracks, selling the exhaustion. Just get me out of this suit. For a moment, the tension holds. The operative nods, signaling a subordinate to approach you. This is your only window. As the junior enforcer reaches for your zipper, you see his eyes through the mask. They look terrified. He's shaking slightly. He's not a monster. He's a hired gun who realizes he's standing in a hot zone. Help me, you whisper, too low for the leader to hear. My family is out there. Is yours? It's a gamble, a frantic, desperate throw of the dice. The guard hesitates. He looks at the map. He looks at the leader's back. In that split second of hesitation, you shove him, not away, but into the leader. Chaos. You lunge for the console Ares was using. You jam your phone into the USB port. The screen flickers. You do not have time to be a hacker. You just need to be a blunt instrument. You drag every file, the logs, the photos, the sterilization protocol manifesto into the upload queue. Stop him. Ares screams. The leader recovers his balance, drawing a sidearm, not a tranquilizer. A pistol. You hit send. The progress bar crawls. 10%, 20%. The fever surges back with a vengeance. Your vision swims. You cough, and this time you feel the wet warmth of blood inside your mask. You are dying. You know that now. The amnesty was a lie anyway. They would have incinerated you the moment you were out of sight. Cancel it. The leader barks, aiming at your head. It is already in the cloud. You scream back, voice tearing. It is going to the Associated Press, the BBC, everyone. 50%. The guard you shoved is wrestling with his own conscience, blocking the leader's line of fire for just a heartbeat, pretending to stumble. It buys you 3 seconds, 80%. The leader shoves the guard aside and fires. The bullet shatters the monitor, showering you in sparks and glass. The screen goes black. Did it finish? Did the packet go through? Silence falls over the room. The only sound is the heavy breathing of the men in black and the distant, muffled roar of the riots getting closer. The leader holsters his weapon. He doesn't look angry. He looks resigned. He taps his earpiece. Command, we have a leak. Initiate Protocol 0 immediately. He looks at you huddled amidst the broken glass, blood leaking from your nose, shivering in your contaminated suit. You think you saved them? The operative asks, shaking his head. You just turned a medical crisis into a global war. The door breaches again, not opened, but blown off its hinges by an explosion outside. Smoke pours in, but it's not the rioters, it's more of them. A second wave of enforcers floods the room, laser sights dancing through the smoke, finding your chest. The leader steps back, gesturing to you with a cold, final authority. Hands up, he commands. You're patient 0 in our new order. The bullet never leaves the chamber. For a heartbeat, the only sound in that smoked-out lab is the hum of the ventilation system and the frantic pounding of your own heart against your ribs. The black-clad operative has the trigger depressed, the slack taken up, his eyes dead and certain behind the gas mask. You brace for the end, for the darkness that Dr. Aras promised. Then a sound cuts through the tension. Not a gunshot, but a chirp. It's the operative's satellite phone. Then another chirp from the guard's belt. Then a cacophony of digital noise erupting from the tactical vests of the death squad surrounding you. It sounds like a flock of frantic birds. The lead operative glances down at his wrist display. You see his posture stiffen, the lethal certainty draining out of him, replaced by the rigid paralysis of a bureaucrat who realizes the paperwork has just become insurmountable. The upload finished. New York Times. The operative mutters, his voice tinny through the mask. BBC World Service. Al Jazeera. It's everywhere. The silence that follows is heavy, suffocating. You did not just leak a story, you shattered the containment glass of the entire world. By morning, the Tokyo Stock Exchange will flatline. By noon, the European Union will likely close its airspace. You have forced the hand of every government on Earth. They can no longer bomb this site into obscurity because now, every camera lens is pointed right here. Sir, The young guard, the one you shoved, the one who hesitated, steps forward. His voice is shaking. Command is ordering a hold. They say we're compromised. The leader looks at you. For a second, you think he might kill you anyway out of sheer spite. But the moment for a clean execution has passed. He lowers the weapon. Pull back, he growls. Scrub the site. We leave. They turn with military precision, abandoning the lab, abandoning Aris, abandoning you. But the young guard hangs back. He looks at the retreating squad, then at you. He tosses something onto the blood-slicked floor. A set of keys. Toyota Hilux, he whispers. Behind the mess hall, go. You do not ask why. You do not say thank you. You grab the keys and you run. Outside, the night is alive with fire. The camp has dissolved into anarchy. The sterilization explosion from earlier blew a hole in the perimeter fence, and now the forest is bleeding into the quarantine zone. You sprint past tents that glow like paper lanterns from the fires inside, dodging figures that stumble and weep in the smoke. You find the truck. It's battered, smelling of diesel and old sweat, a relic of the smuggling routes that crisscross the border between Guinea and Sierra Leone. You turn the key. The engine roars to life. As you tear away from the facility, navigating the rutted laterite roads by moonlight, you turn on the radio. The static clears, and you hear the voice of a British news anchor. They are talking about airborne mutation. They are talking about crimes against humanity. They are talking about emergency aid drops authorized by the United Nations Security Council. For 20 minutes, as you bounce over potholes deep enough to swallow a motorbike, you feel a surge of triumphs. You won. The cavalry is coming. Pallets of medicine, doctors in proper suits. The full weight of the global conscience is finally descending on this forgotten corner of the map. But the relief is a liar. You glance at the passenger seat. The young guard did not stay behind. He jumped in as you peeled out. Now, miles away from his commander, he peels off his tactical mask. He is not older than 22, and he is weeping blood. Thick, dark trails run from his tear ducts. Staining his pale cheeks, he coughs, a wet, rattling sound that seems to vibrate through the truck. Chassis. I did not help you because I am a hero, he rasps, staring out at the jungle rushing by. I helped you because I am already dead. We all are. He points to the windshield. Look at the trees. You slow down. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the dense canopy. The leaves are rustling violently. A storm is coming. The harmattan winds are picking up, blowing dust and dry air from the Sahara, pushing it south, pushing it west, pushing it toward the coast, toward the cities. Dr. Aris said the range was 50 feet, the soldier whispers. But with this wind, it travels for miles. A chill that has nothing to do with the air conditioning settles in your gut. You realize the magnitude of the scientist's vendetta. Aris did not just modify the virus, he weaponized the geography. He waited for the season. He waited for the wind. The truck sputters. You check the gauge, empty of course. In 2014, fuel is more precious than gold in the red zone. We walk, you say. You leave the soldier by the roadside. He cannot go on. He gives you his sidearm, a silent gesture of apology for the part he played. You walk into the darkness following the distant sound of rotors. You reach the extraction point at dawn. It's a flat stretch of savanna used by smugglers, now bathed in the harsh, beautiful light of the African sun. And there, descending like angels of aluminum and steel, are 3 heavy-lift helicopters. They bear the emblem of the World Food Program safety. It's right there. But you are not alone. Emerging from the tall grass, from the tree line, from the very earth itself, are hundreds of people. Villagers, refugees, escapees from the camp. They saw the choppers too. They are running toward the landing zone. But they are not running with hope. They are running with a terrifying, mindless desperation. Some are falling, trampled by the mob. Some are screaming. And many, so many, are coughing. It's a tidal wave of infection crashing toward the only lifeboats left. You stand frozen. If you run, you join the stampede. You become just another body fighting for a seat. If you stay, you die here in the grass. A chopper touches down, kicking up a whirlwind of red dust. A soldier in the door waves you forward, spotting your hazmat suit, assuming you are medical personnel. A priority evacuee. Move, move, he screams over the turbine whine. You take a step. Your chest tightens. It feels like a fist is squeezing your lungs. You stop. You unzip the suit. Just an inch. You need air. You need to breathe. You take a deep breath and it catches. A tickle deep in your throat. a jagged, ripping sensation that tastes of copper. You cough. It's small at first. Then another, then a racking spasm that doubles you over. You pull your hand away from your mouth. Your glove is speckled with bright, oxygenated red. The soldier in the helicopter is waving frantically, his hand extended, offering you a lift out of hell. He is offering you a flight to a carrier ship off the coast, a ship with 2,000 sailors, a ship that will return to Norfolk, Virginia, in 3 days. The wind howls around you, carrying the dust, carrying the death. You look at the soldier's hand. You look at the blood on yours. You are not the survivor. You are the bomb. The soldier grabs your wrist, not the skin, but the rubber of the suit you unzipped, and hauls you into the belly of the machine. You do not scream a warning. You do not have to. The data you uploaded has already painted a target on your back, designating you as the most valuable and dangerous biological asset on the planet. As the helicopter banks over the burning canopy, you watch the fires of the containment zone fade into the gray dawn. The world reacted. Eventually, your leak forced the United Nations Security Council to authorize a global blockade. They locked down West Africa, burned the smuggling routes, and arrested the shadow brokers who funded Dr. RSS Lab. The history books in this timeline will call it the Great Scare of 2014, a near-miss where humanity almost coughed itself into extinction. But as you sit in a negative pressure isolation room in Atlanta weeks later, watching the news through 3 inches of glass, you realize the true horror was not the virus, it was the hesitation. In our real history, the Ebola outbreak killed over 11,000 people because the world looked away. In this timeline, you forced them to look, and they still almost blinked. You are cured according to the doctors at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. But at night, when the facility is quiet, you feel a phantom tickle deep in your chest. Is it a remnant of the infection, or is it the psychological scar of knowing how fragile our safety really is? From the moment you zipped up that suit in Monrovia to the second you pulled the trigger on a conspiracy, you learned that the line between civilization and chaos is only as thick as a hazmat suit. If this journey into the red zone left you checking your own temperature, hit that like button and subscribe to Midnight What Ifs for more alternate histories that refuse to let you sleep. Share this with a friend who thinks they re-prepared for the worst, and tell me in the comments, when the soldier offered his hand, would you have boarded that chopper or stayed behind to burn? Because remember, in the red zone, the scariest thing is not dying, it's surviving to remember what you saw.